Okay, can everyone hear me? Awesome. Okay. All right, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be back here in Austin. I love Austin. I was actually born in Texas, so it's nice to be back again. I'm going to talk, as Russell said, about my book, A Better Life, 100 Atheists Speak Out on Joy Meeting in a World Without God. As he said as well, I'm working on a film version, which I'll talk about a little later on as well. The books are really heavy, as you can see. And they're big, so I didn't bring any with me except for this one, which is mine. But you can order them online. I'll give you a discount code at the end. You get free shipping, so it's kind of like about a year. So, I want to kind of start with something different. One of my favorite films is a film called Shadowlands, which is about C.S. Lewis. I know that's a tough sell in the atheist crowd, but it's a great movie. I love it. It makes me cry. One of the scenes that always kind of stuck out to me was a scene in which C.S. Lewis, played by Anthony Hopkins, is talking about why God allows suffering in the world. I want to play you a clip.
Yesterday, I received a letter that referred to an event that took place almost a year ago now, December the 4th, 1951. My correspondent hasn't forgotten. I doubt if any of us have. That was the night a number 1 bus drove into a column of young Royal Marine cadets in Chatham and killed 24 of them. You remember? And the letter asks some simple but fundamental question. Where was God on that December night? Why didn't he stop? Isn't God supposed to be good? Isn't he supposed to love us? Does God want us to suffer? What if the answer to that question is yes? So I'm not sure that God particularly wants us to be happy. I think he wants us to be able to love and be loved.
He wants us to be able to love and be loved. Well, I happen to agree with 1/3 of that statement. If I were to be asked, which many people do, what are kind of the major themes and ideas of a book like this, of atheists talking about joy and meaning and purpose to their lives, that would probably be it. You know, as far as we know, we only have this one life, right? And so if you really take that to heart, it changes the way you see your family, relationships, experiences. I quoted in the introduction to A Better Life, A.A. Milne's beautiful line from Winnie the Pooh, which is, how lucky I am to have something which makes saying goodbye so hard. One of my favorite photos from the book is this one of Greta Christina and her partner Ingrid in San Francisco. Also, you can see behind them there, they call that the Great Wall of China. I love that. So I want to take you back to New Mexico, actually, White Sands National Monument in New Mexico. I was on a road trip with my brother back in 2011, July. And I was obviously taking a ton of photos, and it was an incredible place. It has who's been to White Sands? White Sands? It's amazing. It looks like snow. It's so white. It's just, that's all you see. And taking all these photos, and my brother said to me, you really should do a book of photography. And I said, well, nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares, right? And he said, well, you just have to think of a way to make it different. We were listening to a lot of podcasts on this trip. This was an epic road trip, by the way. We did a giant triangle from, we started in San Antonio, and went up to Seattle, and then across Canada. It was crazy. Some of the podcasts we were listening to were about religion. I minored in religious studies in college just because I found it interesting. I've always been an atheist, though. One of the podcasts I discovered right before we left on this trip was some podcast from some public access TV station out of Austin.
Our most intelligent person on the face of this earth cannot create a grain of sand from nothing. We can't create a leaf. flower, a bird, let alone an eye or a brain. So to say that all this nature, as you want to call it, came to being without a creative designer is to be disingenuous, because it cannot make itself. It's crazy to think that.
Yes, Ray Comfort is responsible for me doing this book. I thought, oh, look at this podcast. You should check this out. So, and that was one of the episodes we listened to on this trip. And I thought, oh wow, these guys are really cool. This is really interesting. They're bringing up points I didn't even think about. That's so cool. So this idea came up. This idea of, okay, we're in this beautiful spot. We're looking at all these amazing things. I'm taking all these pictures. There's so many people out there who think that without God, what's the point, right? Or God created all this for us as His playthings. So as I mentioned, this road trip was pretty epic. San Antonio, Seattle, then we went up to British Columbia, across Canada, down to New York, then down to Florida, across back over to Texas. And where did we end up? Of course, Austin. This is I'm standing in front of a picture of George W. Bush's face. And so I ended up in Austin. First time I'd ever been in Austin, spent 5 days here. And I went to check out this public access TV show and went out to dinner with the folks after. And I said, hey, I have this idea. I want to do this book about atheists. Has anybody ever done this before? Well, that was actually one thing, was that I assumed someone had already done this. I had this idea. I thought it was a good idea. And I thought, for sure, this is already been produced. Someone has already made this. And they said, nope, don't think anyone's done that yet. And I thought, wow, maybe I can do that. Because as you know, atheists are not really looked at well in our country. I want to show a couple clips.
Atheists are parasites.
What does an atheist believe? Nothing, right? I think they need to shut up.
You're evil, you're wicked, you're vile.
Used to say in previous wars, there are no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole. Is that true? Yes, it is true. Very true.
They suffer the fact that they don't believe because they know that the world makes a whole lot more sense if God does exist.
There's no fellowship between an atheist and somebody who's a believer in God.
If you look at some of the people who are atheists, they're all miserable looking because they don't have any faith in anything.
There's benefit from everything that religious culture is built in America, but they're doing nothing to add energy into the system.
Stupid atheists, I hope God kills them all.
The Pope blamed Nazi crimes on atheism and the secularization of society.
If you think the Bin Ladens of the world are bad, Bin Laden in his wildest imaginations could not even begin to match the crimes of atheism that have occurred within our lifetime. It is atheism, not religion, that is responsible for the mass murders of history.
A press release from the Catholic League says the comparison between atheists and Nazis was more than justified. The Pope did not go far enough. Radical atheists like the British Humanist Association should apologize for Hitler.
They have no love in them. They have no love in them. So all the science, whatever gibberish you want to spout at me, you don't have any love in you. You have no love in you. So it's all worthless.
Our kids don't go to church or believe in God. I love Jesus and the cross, and if you don't, I hope somebody rapes you.
I'm really interested in it because if you think of this world, your life is just prepared with candles and batteries and has no life outside your immediate physical self, I think you're missing something.
We have Christmas. We have fun. We get Christmas. This is a celebration. What do they do? What do they fill the void with? Stuff, things, power, careers, money, celebrities.
And a University of Minnesota poll last year found that atheists were among the most distrusted group in America.
Every dark-sided person, get out of my house. If you believe in Jesus, you can stay here.
You sit up here talking to a dude and he tells you he's an atheist, you need to pack it up and go home. Talking to a person who don't believe in God, what's his moral barometer? Where is that? It's nowhere.
How can you have judgment if you have no faith? And how can I trust you with power if you don't pray?
It's a fun world. So yeah, atheists not really doing very well. I had this idea, I wanted to do this book. One thing though, one minor issue, I didn't have any money. So, I didn't know how I was going to do this. This was going to be a really expensive project. I didn't know anybody, I didn't have any connections, I'm just an artist living in New York. And it wasn't until I found Kickstarter that I found the piece of the puzzle I was missing. So I launched a 2-month-long fundraising process, which was the most stressful 2 months of my life. And not everyone was really thrilled that I was doing a project like this. This is one of the YouTube comments that I got. Please die in a car crash or other accident. There are 2 things I like about this comment, by the way. Number 1, they said please, which that's kind of nice. And I like the fact they also give me a choice. They'll be happy if I die in a car accident or maybe some other form of accident. So, not all the email I got was bad, though. I got this email. It was a service member in Iraq saying I'm an atheist as well. I also got some I get weird email. This one says, I'm a 60-year-old, still in the closet atheist. I have to be, due to my very conservative, narrow-minded Western Pennsylvania surroundings. Life makes more sense now. I can live for now and enjoy my life, not suffer now so that I don't burn for eternity. Losing my religion has been such a refreshing change. I'm anxious for your book to be published, though I'll have to hide it under the bed so my wife doesn't find it. Oh. I know. So, 2 months fundraising. This is the graph of my fundraising, by the way. You see all that? That's all me worrying and pulling my hair out. And then right at the very, the green line, by the way, is the goal there. And then the green line, so like 2 days before is when I succeeded. And it's like reading Rainbow, but 2 years ago. So I was off. So I traveled around the United States, Canada, UK, Germany, other places, meeting with 100 atheists from all different walks of life, backgrounds, professions, things like that. Some people were well known, some people weren't. Traveling around, going to like really cool cities abroad and really cool cities in the U.S. as well. My parents are from Cleveland, so. Some people you might recognize over here in the bottom left, Nala Mahmood. She's a Sudanese refugee living in London. Top right is Donald Johanson. He discovered Lucy. You can see we're holding a replica there of Lucy. And bottom, Carol Blue, widow of Christopher Hitchens. There's someone you might recognize. Yes. Jude Dawkins. One of the most common questions I get is, how did you find these people, apart from like just watching the Atheist Experience? How did you find people to be in this book? Some people I knew about, like I watched the Atheist Experience or read their books, like Steven Pinker, Richard Dawkins. Some people I just knew in life, were friends of mine. Other people, there's kind of a more interesting story behind it. One day I was in New York at a friend's apartment and we were watching 60 Minutes on TV, and we saw this story.
Here, Alex Honnold is 2,600 feet above the Yosemite Valley floor, trying to haul himself up the slippery granite wall of Sentinel. He's so high, he disappears into the mountain. Alex moves seamlessly across a section of flaky, unstable rock, pausing to dry a sweaty hand in his bag of chalk. There's nothing but him, the wall, and the wind. He's up here without ropes or a safety harness. All he has is a pair of rubber climbing shoes. This is what climbers call free solo, and it's so dangerous that less than 1% of people who climb attempt it.
Who wants to go? So I saw this story, and you can watch the whole thing online, by the way. It's fascinating to see the whole bit there. Alex Honnold climbing in Yosemite. And I thought, if he's an atheist, I need to get him for my book. So I looked online, and it turns out he is an atheist. Apparently like most rock climbers. So I went to Yosemite and spent 5-6 days there. You can have in Yosemite. Yosemite is really cool too. By the way, this rock where he's sitting on there is, right up on the cliff there. That's the same rock there. So we're climbing over like do not enter signs. And, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it with him, right? By the way, this is a fun story about this. He's wearing this like short sleeve button-up shirt, and he was cold. He was shivering. He was, and I was like, I wasn't cold at all. It wasn't until after I realized he has no body fat. He's like muscle, like all muscle, so he gets cold easily. So I want to show you a little bit about my time in Yosemite with Alex.
My name is Alex Honnold, and I'm an atheist rock climber. I love rock climbing, I love being outside, I love traveling, and I guess I find meaning in all those things. Well, I come back to Yosemite pretty much every season, every spring and fall, just because the walls are huge, the cliffs are really inspiring, the weather is really good, it's also really convenient, it's kind of close to my home. There are a lot of things that draw me here, but it is like legitimately some of the best times in the world. I was taken to church for maybe like 5 or 6 years as a kid that I can remember, and at no point did I ever think that there was anything going on with church. I just always saw it as like a bunch of old people eating stale wafers, I would like look at the rafters and imagine climbing around on things, and like our church was built like a bunker kind of, and I would imagine like a nuclear apocalypse happening outside and us all surviving, just whatever. But it had nothing to do with church. I was like, no, a letter from Paul to the Corinthians. They're like, whatever. Yeah, for sure I've had moments of, sublime bliss, whatever you want to call it. Like, generally in places with epic vistas, or on top of some mountain, or sometimes after a hard day of climbing or something, you get to the top and it's sunset and everything looks magical. And, for sure I've had some magic moments, like, in nature. I've probably had more moments like that than most, really, because I live in places like this all the time. I'm like outdoors doing this kind of stuff all the time. I guess by not believing in an afterlife, it just sort of forces you to make the most of this life, to actually get the most out of the time you have. And that probably has affected the way I live my life a little bit, by really accepting the fact that I'm just another animal on the earth, and that I will die in my time, and that, I only have a limited amount of time, and I have to use it.
One of the other people I met on my trip was neurophilosopher Pat Churchland. Here she is with her golden retriever, Farley, in San Diego. Here's a clip where she talks about celebrating from a secular perspective.
I used, of course, to teach introductory philosophy to undergraduates, both at UC San Diego, but also in Manitoba. And often, of course, the issue of religion very naturally would come up. And in the kind of social times, when I'd go for coffee with the students and things afterwards, they'd say, well, what do you do about Christmas? And it was a very reasonable question. And so I sort of began to explain to them, well, we really think of it as a kind of, originally, a kind of pagan holiday, which is sort of the celebration of winter solstice, where the days are as short as they're going to get, and the photo period is going to lengthen, and there's all kinds of rituals associated with it being winter solstice. And we just partake of any rituals that happen to please us and that we feel comfortable with. Do the kids hang up stockings? Of course. And so do the dogs. And do we leave out cookies for Santa Claus? Well, but of course. And so it doesn't have to be taken to be too heavy and serious, and it can still be fun and playful and joyful, while at the same time, you're not buying into it wholeheartedly. I mean, in the way that, you know, when you play Monopoly, you take it all very seriously, and you really want all those houses, and then you really want to get those hotels, and you really want to be the monopolist that wins it all, and all that sort of stuff. But you know what's only play money? Well, in something like that, I think that you can partake of various religious rituals without believing in the metaphysics or the mysticism or the stuff that goes on behind it all.
I want to play Monopoly with Pat Churchland. A.C. Grayling, I met in New York when he was on his book tour, and he said something to me that was, I think, one of the most interesting ways of looking at how much time we have in life. So I want to play that clip for you.
If you think that death is the end of one's life, it puts a great deal of emphasis and focus on achieving something in this life. Now, I'm very fond of repeating, and I repeat it at every possible opportunity. What Solon, the Athenian lawgiver, said to King Croesus. He said to him, you've got to remember that a human life is less than 1,000 months long. If you do the maths, supposing you live until you're 80, what's 12 times 80? It's less than 1,000 months. And a third of them, 300 months, you're asleep. Another third of them, you're waiting in line somewhere, in Duane Reed or somewhere. So you have about 300 months to live with passion, to live with vividness, to live trying to do something, make something, trying to create some significance in your own life and the lives of people you care about, and indeed in the world in general, if you can. And that's quite that's quite a challenge in a way, but it's a good challenge. And so it means that one must not waste time. As the cobblers used to say, work while you have life. So while you're here, while you have your 300 months, you must put all your energy into it.
Less than 1,000 months, remember that. Exactly. You might recognize Julie Sweeney, of course, from her fantastic Letting Go of God one-woman show. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it as being one of the greatest pieces of art in our atheist movement. We talked a little bit about her perspective on death as an atheist, and I want to play you that.
Well, that's interesting, because I've had a lot of death around me. First of all, I somehow have a lot of death around me just by accident. I've just worked with a lot of people who died. I have a lot of friends who've died. And I've had family members who died. My brother died of cancer, and that was when I was sort of a believer, like kind of a vague believer. I wasn't clearly an atheist then. But this summer, my other brother died, and my husband's dad died, and so I'm just really around a lot of people dying right now. And I guess it makes, you really do see everything differently. I notice, for example, people come here saying, I'm praying for you, and I'm praying for your brother. And I realize they're really just saying, I'm thinking of you, and I'm thinking of your brother. But I know, just having gone, my brother died a month and a half ago, and people, they seem to want to, they would go to church and say a prayer for my brother, but not necessarily go do something for him before he died. So for me, I understand that what helps you think about someone who's about to die is to go into a church and just meditate on that person for yourself. That makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to the person who's dying. Really, you need to be with the person who's dying. So that changed my attitude about being around people who are dying. I really think of people like flowers in a big field of wildflowers, and they bloom and then they die. And so just that view of people makes it really poignant for me. It's actually much more profound death to me than it was before. If you really think somebody's going to die and then go off somewhere else, that's a very different point of view than if you think the universe produced this person who lived for this many years and had this many experiences, and now they're going away, and the universe is continuing on. I mean, that's just a very different view of it. And to me, it makes it very poignant and very meaningful and really emotional.
After I uploaded that clip, it got picked up by Upworthy. You know Upworthy? And they gave it this title of, "You won't believe what this atheist says about it." Something like that. Got more views that way, though. But I really like what she says about people being like wildflowers in the field, growing, dying, and that cycle of life kind of thing. And it kind of brings me back to my original point from Shadowlands, or the 1/3 of that point, which was love and be loved. Because as far as we know, all we have is this, right? And while life can be scary at times, there's comfort in the fact that we are all together. The relationships we form with others are precious and wonderful. And they're wonderful on their own. They're not from the sanction of some God, but from the fact that we have forged communities that struggle to make the world a better place than we found it. And so through this book, and also through the upcoming film, I hope to explore these topics a little bit more. And I want to show you a clip that I'm going to show tomorrow on the Atheist Experience about what the film is going to be about. Give you a little taste of some of the other clips. Some of the clips in this promo you've already seen, but some of them you haven't. And talk about these things, because one of the things I wanted to do with this project was talk about atheism in a different way. One of the reasons this was so important to me when I started was much of the dialogue is about what we are fighting against, whether it's creationism or teaching doctrine to kids, things like that, why there is no God, pushing against religion. And I think that's very important. I think there's definitely a role for that. I also think we need to talk about what we do believe in, what we cherish, what we value. Because I think that will help more than people think, just intuitively. So I want to show you this clip.
Life is like its own reward. This idea that some people have that atheists must be nihilists who have no purpose and they're all dour all the time, and this life has no meaning and purpose, and why don't we just get it off that? I cannot grasp that.
The more I've understood about how the universe works, the more that whole has come, the more joy, rather than going, it's just clockwork. The sun's there, we go around it every year, and all that stuff. No, I think that's amazing. That is extraordinary how that's done.
Since we are made of the same stuff, the same molecules that were created, in the explosions of the stars, and we ourselves have evolved this incredible ability to contemplate our place in the universe, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
For some people, God is important. God fills a role that they can't do with anything else. I don't have that.
I mean, I do often think like what an amazing world I live in. Like seeing like Glacier and Kilimanjaro or something, just like this crazy, beautiful view. But to me that doesn't mean anything more than just the fact that we live in a beautiful world. I don't need spiritualism or God or anything to explain that.
Part of being an atheist is accepting a really scary thing, that you're going to die.
We're always looking forward and looking past where we are. Therefore, we never experience the moments we're in. It's really difficult to do that. What gives me joy is the fact that the universe is out there and is comprehensible. That we are trying to find answers. Things are logical. Things make sense.
If you are born and are going to die, and you have consciousness that's here now and going to end, you have instant, profound meaning in your life. You happen to be alive right now. You should really make the most of it.
So you have about 300 months to live with passion, to live with vigilance, to live trying to do something, make something, trying to create some significance.
People love things that they find beautiful. And it can be a very expensive thing, an exquisite thing. Or it can just be as simple as, I used to have that when I was a child. And I can't believe I've seen this now in the thrift store. I hadn't thought of this thing in, 30 years. And then there's my dogs. Then there's the dogs.
through their hard times.
Thank you very much. I can take questions if anybody has any questions. Yeah.
So, seeing the book, is there plans for music this?
Yeah, so I'm putting I have like 50 hours of interview footage from everybody that I met with, and I'm turning that now into a full-length documentary film, which is a lot of work, but it's fun. So hopefully it should be out by Christmas. That's my goal. Yes?
I think it's hilarious that it was Ray Comfort that inspired or gave the impetus for the book. So I'd like to say that it's proof that something can come from nothing.
That's the best thing I've heard all day. That's really great. That's true, yeah. I love that Ray Comfort inspired me to do this. Yeah.
Where do you envision your documentary show?
I mean, if you have connections, anywhere. I'd like more people that can see it, the better. So if I get on Netflix or some kind of film festival circuit or something like that, come to groups and show it. I think that would be cool too. Yeah. Hopefully, the more people that we can see it, the better. Yeah.
You try and get in touch with the Atheist TV people at American Atheists?
Oh, I have not. I know some of them. So okay, we'll talk to them. Yeah, maybe that. If people watching them, I don't know. Who watches Atheist TV every day? Any other questions? Yes.
Okay. It's obvious that the people that you speak with, they're so comfortable, they're so expressive. What are you doing to get into that? You share some of your secrets?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm just doing what I'm doing now, I guess. I don't know. Thank you. I mean, that's very nice of you to say. I just try to be myself. I just try to be comfortable, and I think if you show you're comfortable talking to people in that situation, they'll be comfortable. And I wish I had some kind of magic secret to tell you, but it's kind of just be yourself. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. Yeah.
Is the money you raise cover the whole
Partially, yeah. I had to take out loans to finish it because it went over budget. Life. But it did cover most of it, yeah. And then I did another Kickstarter for the film version I'm working on now. I just went through, so I had 50 hours, more than 50 hours of footage, and I whittled that down to 9. So there was a lot of sitting in my apartment in New York, for days on end, growing beers, and editing, and listening to all these people talk. So it was actually kind of fun though, because I hadn't really watched much of it in a long time. So it's actually kind of nice to go back and think, oh, that was an interesting answer, and I don't remember that, so that was kind of cool. So I liked it. Any other questions anybody has? No one wants to ask me who my favorite person in the book is? That's the most, the question I get all the time. I don't have a favorite. The most famous? Dawkins, Penn and Teller, James Watson, who discovered the structure of DNA. Those are probably the most famous. Yes, in the back.
Who haven't you met that you looking forward maybe in the future recording, you haven't been able to do so?
Haven't I met? There are people I tried to get, more famous names to kind of help make it more proper. Sorry. I tried to get Sam Harris, for example, Ricky Gervais. Actually, one of the coolest, I email a lot of people trying to get, see if they'd be interested in being a book like this. And even sometimes when I would get an email back, a very polite, nice email just saying, thanks for writing. Because most of the time, you write people and they don't write you back, or you write their age and they don't write you back. But there were a couple of times when I actually got replies declining, but the fact that they replied at all was pretty cool. Patrick Stewart was one who sent me a nice message saying, "Sorry, I'm not interested" or something. But that was pretty cool to get that. Yeah. It shows that people are actually reading your emails that I got through, and that it's fine if they don't want to be a part of it, but it's nice of them to write back. Yeah.
Have you always identified as atheist, or is this something that a revelation you came to later on?
Pretty much always an atheist, although I didn't really use the term until college. I minored in religion, as I said. And it wasn't until, and that was also around the time, the whole new atheist movement started, was when I was in college, when God Illusion came out, and End of Faith and all that. So that was really kind of when I started identifying as an atheist, although before I probably would have said I was an atheist or I did believe in God or whatever. So there never was really a struggle for me. In fact, I remember when I was a kid, when I was 5 years old, I remember we got, for Christmas, I was given a children's Bible, one of those little children's Bibles, with all these stories. And I remember asking my dad where the dinosaurs were. Where did the dinosaurs fit into this story? So, yeah. Your mom got you a children's Bible too.
He needs to know what's inside.
Yeah, actually, my cousin who has 3 kids under the age of 6, 3 under the age of 6, was asking people on my Facebook, they were visiting Western Europe and they were seeing Jesus on the cross all over the place, and their kids were like, "Mommy, what's that? Why is this guy being killed?" And she actually was looking for resources for telling kids about Jesus, and all she could find were Christian stuff, cartoons made by Christians trying to evangelize. So she was looking for good secular alternatives for that. I think there's some out there. But
there are. What I found too is that when he understands what they believe, he has a better idea of how he wants to tell that. He then understands what he believes as well.
It's all about teaching how to think, not what to think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything else? Other questions, comments, concerns, confessions? All right. Well, thank you very much.